guys. That was so much fun to get to sing and worship God together. This month, we're finding out about what it is to drop the act and to show others who we really are. It's what it looks like to live a life of integrity. Do y'all remember what integrity means? Let's see if we can get it up on our screen. Jacob? Integrity is choosing to be truthful in whatever you say and do. Okay? We don't have to act like someone else that we're not. We don't have to hide who God made us to be. With His help, we can be brave, we can be honest, and we can be truthful. So today we've got a little game. I've gotten my son Elias to help me. And in these bags, he's hidden some things from around my house. And I'm not really sure what's in here. But we're going to play a game called Truth or Lie. So y'all have to help me, okay? If you think I'm going to open the bag, I'm going to look inside, I'm going to tell you what's in here. If you think I'm telling the truth, hold your thumbs up. If you think I'm lying, thumbs down, okay? And I don't know what's in here, so I'm a little scared. Oh, my goodness. So, there's a cat in this bag. And he looks to be a little tangled up. And maybe he's lost his collar. His collar looks like it might be down around his bottom. And he's got like some yarn and stuff wrapped around him. What do you think? I see a lot of thumbs down. I got 1 or 2 thumbs up, but I've got a lot of thumbs down. So, in my bag, there is a cat wrapped up in yarn, and if you can see, he's got a little collar down here around his bum. So, I was telling the truth on that one. Let's see what else Elias found in my house. I'm a little concerned. Oh, well, in this bag, there is a boot. And there is a superhero in this boot. It's the Incredible Hulk. And he's sitting inside this boot like this. Am I telling the truth or am I lying? I got a couple of truthers. I got quite a few truthers. I was actually kind of lying. It's a Spider-Man slipper with Spider-Man sitting in it. That's really odd. All right, bag number 3. What do you think? Am I getting good at telling the truth or lying? Let's see. Oh my. All right. So, do I need to swap mics? Are we good? Okay. In this bag, I have my favorite spatula. He went into the kitchen, he got my spatula. And then he took a dog toy and put a bow on a dog toy and put it in here with my favorite spatula. Truth or lie? Bella says lie. Abby says lie. I've got a few truths. It's not a spatula. It is a fork and a knife, still out of my kitchen, out of my silverware drawer, with a squeaky dog toy. Oh, they're all tied together. So I did have the dog toy, but it was not my spatula. All right, I have one more. Hi, guys. All right. Oh, my. In this one, I have another animal. I have a dog in this bag. And this dog must be getting ready to do some science. He's wearing those science goggles that you put on when you're doing experiments. What do you think? Is there a dog in here wearing goggles? Truth or lie? Truth or lie? Miss Teri says I'm lying. Abby says I'm telling the truth. Anna Ruth says I'm telling the truth. Oh, there was more down in there. I couldn't even see it. He is doing. It's a dog wearing goggles. All right. You know, I have some weird stuff at my house. I'm a little concerned now. I might need to go clean my house. So it was interesting to kind of see if I was telling the truth or if I was telling a lie. Some of those that I wasn't quite telling the truth, I was really close, right? So that's the way it is sometimes. Sometimes it's easy to kind of we call it like maybe telling a little white lie or just bending the truth a little bit. But now when I open up a bag and tell you what's in it, y'all don't know whether or not to believe me, right? And so what that means is when you don't tell the truth all the time, when you're not a person of integrity, sometimes it's hard for people to believe whether you are going to tell them the truth all the time or not. They don't know whether to believe you. It makes me think of a story that one of my friends told me, and y'all may know this story. It was called Peter and the Wolf. And Peter was a shepherd, and he would sit out in the field with the sheep, and he'd be so bored because, sheep just eat grass and do things, and that's all they're doing. And he's decided, he's like, I'm so bored. You know what? I bet if I yelled, wolf, 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 that everybody in the village would come out to help me save my sheep, even though there's not really a wolf here. That'd be some action, and that'd be so much fun. And so he did. And everybody came running to see, to help save these sheep. And guess what? There wasn't really one. And they were like, Peter, really? And then they went back to their business, and he's out there with his sheep, and he goes, everybody came running. I wonder if I yell it again, if they'll come faster this time. And so he did. He'd go, wolf, wolf, wolf. And everybody came running because they got to save the sheep. And then, again, he's like, ha, 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 I fooled you. I fooled you. There's no wolf. And then, guess what? They all go about their business, and this time, a wolf really does come up to start attacking the sheep. And Peter yells, wolf, wolf, I really mean it, there's a wolf. And they're like, oh, yeah, right, you're just playing with us. There's no wolf. And guess what? That time, he was telling the truth, but because he had not told the truth the other times, they didn't believe him. And so that's why it's important for us to be people of integrity, to do and say what's true all the time. And so we have a Bible story about that. Miss Teri is going to tell us a story all about why we should tell the truth and what happens when we don't.
Good morning. Good morning to you at home or afternoon or whenever you're watching this. Good morning to those of you here. Some of you I haven't seen in a really long time. Hi. And some of you I haven't seen in a really long time. Hi. I miss you. I have a great story for today. Remember a few weeks ago we talked, how's that? Is that better? Oh, okay. That feels better. Okay, so a couple weeks ago we talked about Elijah and Elisha. I have another story about Elisha today. This is a great one. And I have brought some props, so I'm going to kind of act out the story. Hey, if you want to, at home, want to act out the story with me, you can jump up and pick a character and act it. And as long as you stay in your square, if you want, you can jump up and act out a character if you see somebody that you want to pretend to be. Or you can just listen and I'll jump around for you, because I'm really good at that. Okay, so in my story about Elisha, there's two countries. One is the country of Aram, and the other is the country of Israel. Israel, we know, that's God's chosen people. They live there. Okay, so in today's story, the kingdom of Aram and Israel are enemies. They're not friends. As a matter of fact, the kingdom of Aram has taken some people from Israel back as captives. And one of them is a little girl. And that little girl becomes the servant of a man named Naaman. There's Naaman. So Naaman has a skin disease, and we've talked about this disease before. Does anybody remember talking about leprosy? It's a skin disease that makes your skin all yucky. Naaman had leprosy. And this little girl who came from Israel, who was captured from Israel, she says to the mistress, to Naaman's wife, she said, if Naaman could go to Israel, there's a man there named Elisha. And Elisha has the gift of healing. And if Naaman could go see him, he could heal him, and then he wouldn't have leprosy anymore. And Naaman thought, oh, that would be really good. Because, see, Naaman was the head of the king of Aram's army. And so he was a very important man. And if he could not have leprosy anymore, that would be a really good thing. But, as you might imagine, if the kingdom of Aram and Israel are at a point where Aram is taking people away from Israel, they're not exactly friends, right? They're kind of enemies. So, he can't just hop over to Israel and say, hey, I want to see Elisha, because their kingdoms are enemies. So he thinks, what can I do? What can I do? So he goes to the king of Aram, because, that's his boss. He's his big army man. And he says, hey, king, so I hear that in Israel there's this man named Elisha who has the gift of healing. And he could heal me, and then I wouldn't have leprosy anymore, and then I could be an even better commander of your army. Well, the king says, that's a fabulous idea. Let me give you a letter, and you can take the letter, and you can go see the king and tell the king you want to be healed. He says, take some presents with him, to the king. So he's going to take some presents, and he's going to go over here, and he's going to see the king of Israel. And he says to the king of Israel, hey, here's a letter from my king, and he says, make me better. Well, the king cannot make him better. And the king is thinking, wait a minute. I think this is a trick. I think that king sent this man over here to be healed by me because he knew I couldn't do it, and then he's going to come attack my kingdom again. Can you imagine the king stomping his feet? You might want to jump up and do that. So he's mad, right? Because he thought, that king is playing a trick on me. Well, Elisha, dun, 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 hears about the situation. And Elisha does have the gift of healing because he's a prophet, and he does what God says. And so Elisha sends word to the king. He says, oh, king, don't be mad. Send him over to me. He says, okay, that's a good idea. He says, so go see Elisha. Maybe Elisha can help you. He goes, okay. So he takes his presents and he goes over and he comes to see Elisha. And guess what Elisha does? Elisha does not come out and talk to him. He sends a messenger. And he says, hey, Elisha says to go and dip in the Jordan River 7 times and then you'll be healed. Well, first of all, Naaman was mad. He's like, I come all the way over from my country, come to see the king. The king sends me to this Elisha dude, and he doesn't even come out and talk to me. He doesn't come out. He doesn't pray for me. He just sends a messenger and says, go dip in the river 7 times. Like we don't have rivers at home in Aram. And Aram, our rivers are better than the river Jordan. He's just stomping his little feet, and he's mad. And his servants that are with him said, hey, wait a minute, Naaman. Think about this. If he told you to do something really hard, like tap your head and rub your belly at the same time and turn around, if he told you to do something really hard, you probably would have done it. But this is an easy thing, so just try it. He's like, well, I really do want to be healed from my leprosy. So, okay. So he goes to the Jordan River. Okay, and you're going to have to help me count. Okay, he's told him to dip 7 times. Okay, you ready? So here we go. Got to count. Oh, wait, you got to count louder than that. 2, 3, 4. Let's look at him. Does he look any different? No. Better keep going. 5, 6, 7. And when he comes up out of the water the 7th time, guess what? His skin is perfect. It's whole. It's complete. It's clean. He really was healed from the leprosy. So Naaman goes running back to Elisha, and he says, come here, Elisha. He says, Elisha, you really do worship the one true God. Your God is the only God in Israel and the whole world, and he really did make me better. Let me give you presents. Miss Teri just ran out of hands. Let me give you presents. And Elisha said, I don't want your presents. You just keep them. He said, I just want you to know that we have the only God, the only real true God. And Naaman says, you're right. I will never worship a different God again. I will only worship the God of Israel. And he was so happy. And he said, you sure you don't want a present? And he said, no, I don't want your present. I just want you to know that my God is the only true God. He says, okay. So Naaman takes his present and he goes back and he's on his way back home. Well, then there's another character that we haven't talked about. And he has a crazy name. See his mask? He's a little crazy. His name is Gehazi. Okay? Something like that. That's Miss Teri's interpretation of the Hebrew name. So, Gehazi. So he has this servant. This is Elisha's servant, Gehazi, with his little mask. And he says, Elisha's crazy. He says, that man, he brought all those presents, and I think there's some silver in there, and there's some fancy clothes, and Elisha didn't take anything. And he says, I think we should take the presents. So Gehazi goes running after Naaman, and Naaman gets out of his chariot, and he says, what's wrong? What's wrong? And Gehazi tells a lie. He says, Elisha sent me after you because he has some guests. There's like these 2 young prophets, and they need clothes. So he sent me after you to see if I could get 2 sets of clothes for these 2 prophets and 75 pounds of silver. Yeah, that's what he did. He sent me after you to get the presents. And he's like, well, sure, I tried to give him the presents. He says, here. He says, take the clothes, silver, take the clothes for the other dude. And you know what? Take twice as much silver as you ask for. Well, Gehazi was like, yes, I got all this stuff. He liked the pink bag the best. And he says, yes. So he takes all these presents, and he goes back to Israel, and he goes back to Elisha's house, and he hides them. Because did Elisha really send him? No. He told a lie. So then Elisha says, Gehazi, come here. He's like, hey, Elisha, what's up? He says, where you been? Gehazi tells another lie. He says, nowhere. I didn't go anywhere. There's nothing here. I haven't been here. He says, Gehazi, I know you're not telling the truth because my spirit knows and saw you with Naaman, and I saw you ask him for presents, and I saw you take the presents. And Gehazi, you lied to me. You told me you didn't go anywhere, but you did. You lied to Naaman. And guess what? Now you, Gehazi, are going to have Naaman's skin disease. Sure enough, Naaman takes off his coat, and he has leprosy all over his skin. He said, and your children are going to have the same skin disease. Now, all Gehazi wanted was some new clothes and some silver. And so, he was just like, yeah, I got the stuff. And instead of having the new clothes, which he still has, their clothes are still there, he has a skin disease. For the rest of his life, he has leprosy. Oh. Well, what in the world does this have to do with integrity, that big word that Miss Kristi was telling us about, where you're truthful in what you say and what you do? Was Gehazi truthful? No. Do you think that Elisha will be able to trust Gehazi the next time he says something? No. Because here's what happens. Exactly. If you tell a lie, then people can't believe you anymore. It might be your parents. It might be your teacher. It might be your friends. Maybe you tell your friends, hey, guess what I got for my birthday? I got a a dirt bike. And what you really got was a used bicycle from the thrift store. But you say, oh, I got a dirt bike. And your friend comes over to take his turn on the dirt bike, and you have a bicycle. Which is cool. Bicycle is cool. But if you don't tell the truth, and you tell somebody that you have something that you don't, are they going to believe you the next time that you tell them, oh, guess what I got for my birthday? Yeah, you probably got a bag of switches. Do you know, this is totally off the subject, but my husband, Mr. William, one time got a bag of switches for Christmas. He had not been very nice to his sister, and he got a bag of switches. But anyway, I digress. So if you don't tell the truth, then people can't believe you. And if you don't have integrity, if you're not truthful in what you say and what you do, was Gehazi truthful in what he did? Did Elisha send him to get clothes and silver? No. So what he did wasn't truthful. And then when Elisha caught him in the lie, he told another lie to try to cover up for it. He said, no, that's not what happened. I was here the whole time. And that's how lies work. If you tell one lie, then you end up telling another lie to cover that up, and then another lie, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So what should you do? Right. Number one, you should tell the truth. Number two, what if you make a mistake and you mess up? You remember my story from last week about soccer and I accidentally kicked my friend? Now, did I mean to kick my friend? No, it was an accident. So when you make a mistake, I should have stopped and said, oh, I am so sorry that I accidentally hurt you. And then I would not have ended up with a broken arm, for those of you who didn't hear my story, because I didn't stop to see if my friend was okay. Instead, I went after the soccer ball, and then I missed the soccer ball and landed on my arm and ended up breaking my arm. But that's last week's story. But just so you know, sometimes if you don't do the right thing, then more bad things happen. And that's what happens when you don't tell the truth. If you don't tell the truth, then people can't believe you, that you don't have any integrity. They don't want to be around you. So integrity is telling the truth in what you say and what you do. And that's what God wants us to learn. He wants us to be people of integrity. And he wants us to be truthful in what we say and what we do. And you folks at home, I want you to remember that this week. I want you to have a great week and remember to be truthful in what you say and what you do. And if you make a mistake, just say, I made a mistake. And then you can be forgiven. And God will forgive you. And hopefully the person that you harmed will forgive you. And the folks here, we're going to have some small group time, and we're going to talk some more about how that works. You folks at home have a great week, and we'll see you next week, and we'll talk some more about integrity.